by surgery. So he had surgery and he was 100% cured. Now, when I read this story, I thought about something. Beyond the things that I say, I think all of us have a unique contribution to make in life. And I really have a real desire to share with people. You know what? You make, by the use of your gifts, the world a better place. I really think that's what God called all of us to do. The only question is, are we going to take the time and effort to figure that out, to develop those gifts? That's our calling as Christians. I really think that. But you know what's interesting, too, about this? I think it's amazing in life that people can be given these incredible miracles and it makes no change in their life. It doesn't cause them to turn to God. And I was saddened when I read that story, except that when you read the New Testament, at least when I read it, you see stories of that all the time. Jesus healed many people in the presence of others who simply didn't believe the miracle had occurred. And I think that in a person's life there needs to be awareness of God for them to understand that God is at work. And I hope He's at work in Steve Jobs' life. I don't know that. What's interesting is he ends his speech by talking about dogma, and he says, don't let other people define how you live your life. There's his statement on dogma. He says, don't be trapped by dogma. And I found that kind of an interesting thing to say. Dogma has a stigma attached to it. It's like, okay, rigid beliefs, those are bad. But you know what? I got to believe that in his heart there was some sort of hope that sustained him through this period, whether it was dogma or something else. He takes away from this that you ought not to have dogma in your life. I take it from it that, you know what, if you don't have something that your life points to, doesn't have a sense of hope, I don't know how you get through things. Finally, he ends his talk by saying, stay hungry and stay foolish, or his words, his advice to the graduates. I like that. I think if in our lives we don't have a sense of hunger, a sense of desire for more, for learning, I interpret it that way, and we're not willing to question, we're not willing to re-examine the things in our lives that work and don't life, then we start to live a stagnant life. So, some final thoughts here. Talked about career, talked about Steve Jobs. Everyone in this room, I mentioned it, has a unique set of skills and abilities that cannot be matched. It was one copy given to one person. Now, you know what? I heard that when I was growing up and sort of, went right in one ear, except outside the other. But now I say it, not from the standpoint of someone who's heard it, from the standpoint of someone who's managed a lot of people. When I managed Canada and Latin America, I had 1,000 employees who worked for me. I'll tell you something, I met very few people who were the same. I met a lot of wonderful people, all of whom had different abilities, different skill sets, and approached things different. You are no different than me right now. You are no different than me. When I came to Houghton, I didn't have a lot of advantages. All I had was a hunger. I had a hunger to make a difference in life, and I had my relationship with God. I think everyone in this room shares that same set of skills and abilities. These skills and abilities that you may not have discovered, I really think that they're the key to creating good for yourself and also for others. I think there's this incredible ability when you discover what you're really good at and share that with others, making the world a better place, and I challenge you to do that. And I think, I was hearing a report the other day about New Orleans, and I heard this nun came on, and people were questioning where was God in that tragedy in New Orleans, and she was talking about the fact that we all have choices we can make in life, and that's the way God set up the world. What I was struck by when she talked about it was the fact that we have no greater role than to use our gifts in the service of others, that's our greatest calling as Christians, and I thought that was just a wonderful perspective on which to adopt. all of your gifts and abilities end up just being selfishness if they're used solely for yourself to amass wealth or to do well. They become instruments for the use of God when we share those with others. And I like this quote. What we are is God's gift to us, an anonymous quote. What we become is our gift to God. So let me finish with this quote. So we talked about career, we talked about Steve Jobs, we talked about our lives. I like this quote from C.S. Lewis. There are two kinds of people, those who say to God, "Thy will be done," and those to whom God says, "All right, have it your way." We make that choice in our lives, how we choose to live it. We can choose to live it in the service of God and service of others. We can choose to live it in any other way. This is an era where there's a tremendous amount of selfishness in business. I see it. People make astronomical sums of money and don't think very often about others. I think the promise of Houghton, I think the promise of the education you give is that you get to think about giving others. And I'll tell you this, a life is not complete without serving others. So I leave you with those thoughts. My prayer is that you be people who say the former rather than the latter. And thanks for this time with you.
We're running a little bit late, but I just want to take a moment and ask, do I have a question? Is this on top of your head that you really would like to ask our speaker? The ideas he's brought up that caused you to think about something and you're wondering maybe could you elaborate on something or something that, anything at all you'd like to talk about?
You mentioned always having a plan, and a lot of things that happen were part of your plan. I'm wondering what's next in your plan?
I don't have the foggiest idea. I'm sort of out of plans at the moment. No, I don't. I think I would say generally that I realize I've been given a lot in my life, and I'm trying to figure out what the best place of service in my life is. That's sort of where my energy is directed at the moment. So I don't know what that means. So I'm open.
Can I throw one question at you too?
Sure.
You've had to make lots of decisions on your job, but can you think of times when your faith has helped you with decision making?
Yeah.
Has faith informed the processes you've gone through?
You know, I would say, as I look back in my life, at every crossroads major decision, I think faith and prayer have always informed the decisions I've made. And I won't say that I always knew it would work out. I will say that as I look in hindsight, because you connect the dots in hindsight, it did work out, and I'm sure that was God's grace and the decision making that I made. The other thing is that as I've grown older and as I've had more experience in my career and developed more education, I've learned to rely on that less and to pray a lot more about what I do and to make my decisions that way. So of course all of that informs it, but I think that a deep sense of humility and a understanding that you don't know it all is really important in life. So I would say both.
Maybe I missed it. Did you tell us what you studied here as an undergrad?
Interesting. Ken mentioned business. I didn't. I studied psychology and philosophy. I did not take one business course while I was here.
Gee, I'm claiming you. I shouldn't have taken it.
There are a lot of paths.
Someone said recently one of the best kept secrets about a liberal arts education is that in some ways it may not matter a lot what you major in.
Yeah.
God can use us in lots of ways that we don't have any idea about while we're here. But certainly choosing a major is part of the process of choosing what you resonate with.
Sure.
Where your passions are. Which is appreciated. Okay, we have one